Hi, this is Steve with HomeStrung Jewelry, and today we're going to be making this pendant, which is wrapped around a little glass stone that was contained in the Once in a Blue Moon Special Edition box. Materials you're going to need for this project is you're going to need 22 gauge square wire, 3 pieces that are 8 inches long. You're going to need 20 gauge half round wire. Again, I'm using copper today, and this is roughly 12 inches long. The only other materials that you're going to need is, of course, you're going to need a 18 millimeter round cabochon. This particular one, again, was from the Once in a Blue Moon box. Now, the back of this pendant, or excuse me, the back of this cabochon has a little paper cover on the back, which is the image. It glows in the dark, by the way. And so this is just completely optional, but I took some UV resin and covered the back just to prevent it from scratching when we put the wire in it, and also to make it a little more water resistant, but this is not required by any means. In fact, all of these other stones that are here just have the paper backing on them. Now the wire again that I'm using is copper wire. This first pendant, which we displayed when we showed the Once in a Blue Moon box, uses German silver, which is perfectly fine if you want to use it, but it's a little bit stiffer. And if you're not really experienced in wire wrapping, today I'm just going to suggest that you use copper. It's a lot friendlier, it's easier to bend and to use, it's a little more forgiving. Of course, it's a lot less expensive than something like sterling silver. And so that's what I'm going to be using today to do this project. Now, along with the materials in here, there are certain tools that are going to be required. You're going to need a pair of square nose pliers, chain nose pliers. You're going to need a pair of flush cutters. Also, I'm going to use some painter's tape. I believe this is like 3/4, 7/8 inch. And then a pair of scissors for cutting that. We're going to need a couple of mandrels. You're going to need about a 5 millimeter or 3/16 inch mandrel of some sort. I'm just using a knitting needle here, but you could use round nose pliers, you could use a step mandrel, you could use just about anything. The other mandrel that I'm going to use is what we use to form the circle of wires that is the supporting cage around the outside of the stone. And I'm just going to use a ring mandrel for this. Now it's 18 millimeters, and using copper, if we just wrap it around at a size 7, that seems to work. Other wires, you know, this is dead soft wire. If you have a half hard or you're using German silver, it may need to be a little bit different because of spring back. The only other tools that we're going to need is you're going to need a Sharpie. And then I always use a little bit of steel wool when I'm working with a base wire like copper or brass, just to go through and clean the wire. It removes any oils that were there during the, the development of the wire, and it removes some oxide as well. Some people feel that this is unnecessary, particularly if they're going to be putting a patina on it. But I'm kind of old school. I still do it. And at the same time, make sure that if you're using any kind of a craft wire that has an enamel coating, don't use the steel wool because it will scratch and possibly even remove that coating. To get started, we're going to take this painter's tape and we're just going to cut 4 pieces of the tape. And these just, you don't have to be super accurate, but about a 1/2 inch is all that you're going to need, and you're going to need 4 of these. Next, we're going to take the 3 8-inch pieces of square wire, and we're just going to hold these together into a flat bundle, and then we're going to tape them, just to hold them together to make it easier for us to use. So I'm going to use one of those pieces of tape that we just cut, and I'm holding these things flat together. You can pull them a little bit just to straighten them out and keep them together. But just take this and, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch from the end, just tape that down flat, and then just wrap it around. And when you got a little flag here at the end, I just fold the end under. That just makes it easier to remove later on. All right, then I just sit here and just kind of wiggle the wire a little bit, work my way down, holding the bundle together. This kind of straightens it, helps the wire to line up. And about an inch, inch and a half from the end, we're going to stick another piece of tape. And again, just kind of fold over the end. It makes it easier to remove it. Then just continue down the wire, just playing the part of the wire whisperer. And if you just keep working with it, those wires are going to stay together. And then here again, about an inch and a half from the end, we're going to stick another piece of the painter's tape. And then just keep working with that wire until we get back down to the end. And a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, whatever from the end. Just put that tape down again. And wrap it around. So we've got this length of wire with 2 pieces of tape at each end. Now we're going to take our ruler. I mentioned you're going to need a ruler. Got a little bend in the wire there. And the 4-inch mark is the middle. Going to take our Sharpie and we're just going to put one little mark right there at the halfway point at 4, and then we're going to make a mark at 1/8 of an inch on each side, and then you want to go 1 1/8 inch away on each side. And on that one, I make a point of covering all 3 of the wires. So you can see we've got 1 dot in the middle, 1/8 of an inch, and 1 1/8 inch out from that center mark on each side. We're going to give this just a second to dry. If we don't do that, the Sharpie will wipe right off. Okay, the marks have all dried now. We're going to take the 1/2 round wire, this 20 gauge 1/2 round wire, and you need to find the flat side of the wire. If you hold it up in the light, you can see the flat side just reflects a solid reflection. It's just bright all the way across. The round side, you can see that there's shadows. So we take the flat side and our chain nose plier, and about 3/4 of an inch from the end, we're going to bend the wire with the flat side in about 90 degrees. And we're going to take our wire bundle with the dots on the top, and I'm going to hold that little tail there on the back. And so we've got the long side sticking out here, and we're just going to fold this, pulling it tight around the front of the wire. Okay, now you want to hold this bundle tight while you're doing that, because if you're not careful, when you pull the wire tight, it will squeeze those wires together and they won't stay flat anymore. So the other thing I do is I take my chain nose pliers and I just keep hold of them with my little fingers, and I'm just going to give that a little bit of a squeeze just to make sure that we have a sharp bend. And then I'm going to roll the whole thing over to the back side, and then take the long end of that wire and pull that again up. Remember to hold it tight. Then I'm just going to take this and just push it down a little bit. And then fold it over again, roll it over again, take the end of the wire and pull it so that it's close up against the previous wire. In fact, if you look here, you can see that I sometimes even overlap that earlier wrap a little bit. And then when you push down with the pliers, it'll push itself into place. Okay, check real fast to make sure that first wrap is on the line. Flip it forward. And we're going to pull it up again. Squeeze it. Flip it over. Pull it over. Push it down. We're going to do this so that we have 8 wraps showing on the front. Now I'm not squeezing really hard. I'm not compressing the wire by any means, but I feel like I get a better wrap when I do this, and you can see how close those are together. And I think using the pliers gives you just that little bit better finish. Some people don't do it. It takes a little longer, but I feel that it's worth the time. Okay, pull it to the back. Let's check real quick. Make sure we've got all 8 wraps, and we've pretty much covered those dots too. Okay, let's flip it over to the back side, and I'm just going to pull this wire up a little bit. This is the long wire, and bring your flush cutters in, and we're just going to cut that so it's about halfway across the wrap. Do the same thing over on this side with that initial tail. Okay, now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers because we've got a little sharp pokey up there. I'm just going to squeeze that down on both sides. You feel it, make sure it doesn't scratch. Okay, back to the front side. There we go. Got 8 wraps. Now we're going to form our little circle. I bring in the ring mandrel, find a size 7, and put it on there, making sure that you've got the outside of the wrap with the ends on the inside. And we're just going to push that around the mandrel, forming a curve. Okay, take the mandrel out. You see we just got it. We haven't made a complete round on that. We want to make sure that these wraps are down at the bottom. But let's take the stone, and it seems to fit okay. We'll tighten it up a little bit when we wrap the top. Okay. So now we're going to build the bottom of the cage. And for this, you're going to need your flat nose pliers. And what you need to do is we're going to grab just one of the wires right up here by the wrap with the flat nose. Whoops, that's a sound you don't want to hear. Okay, grab that, and we're just gonna, I'm holding the bundle of wires up here by where the, whoops, holding it up here by where the mark is. You want to hold that tight, grab the wire, and you're just going to twist in. We're going to do the same thing over on the other side. Hold upside down here. We're going to grab just the inside wire. I'm holding it up there by the mark, and we're going to rotate it in. Okay, so you can see that we formed the bottom. It's, you know, we build a little platform to hold the cabochon. Now with this in place, I'm going to take the chain nose pliers, and I'm going to grab this right where the dots are, and we're going to fold it up, not quite 90 degrees. And do the same over here on the other side. I'm going to put the stone in place and just finish forming the circle around the stone. Keep those bundles together, don't let them creep up. Okay, so we got something of a round shape here. Now I'm going to take this first layer of tape off. I'm going to leave the two end ones on for now just to keep those together, those wires together. I'm going to keep one of those. I'm going to bring those both back together a little bit. I think we can bend these just a little bit more. It looks like that's going to hold the stone in place very nicely. Okay, now I'll take one of the pieces of tape and I'm going to take the two different bundles, move up just a little ways, and I'm just going to tape them together. Just to hold them together a little nicer. Then we go back to our half round wire. Again, find the flat side, which is the side that shines the most. Take the chain nose pliers and make a 90-degree bend again. Then making sure that we've got the top side there. There's the folded side that forms the tray for the, for the cabochon. And we're going to wrap this, we're going to hold that up against it. And we don't have to be right up against that loop for right now. But we're going to pull this wire over the two bundles. Rotate it around. And we're going to do a second wrap. Keeping those wraps right together. Bring it around. There's two full wraps. We'll just keep going. Until we've got 4 wraps going down each side. There's 4 on that side. We got 4 on that side. Pull it straight. We can pull the little tail here at the beginning. We can trim that off. Use the chain nose to flatten the sharp edge down. And now we're going to push it down up against the cage. And we'll put the stone in place. You might need to work with it a little bit. There we go. Just heard it click into place. You see it's in there, it's secured on the bottom. It isn't secured on the front quite yet. We're going to do that here right now. Okay, I'm going to take my fingernail. I'm not going to use pliers for this. And I'm just going to put my fingernail right inside. We're on the front of the pendant now. I'm going to put it right inside between the wires up here near the top. Now I'm not going to twist my finger like I did the pliers. I'm just going to very carefully pull this top wire towards me a little bit. You can see it's separating, but it's coming out over the stone and it's holding it. We'll do the same thing over on the other side. Bring the fingernail in and just pull it forward a little bit. Check it from the top, make sure it's somewhat even. You can see it's now holding that in place, and we'll adjust that in a minute, but that isn't coming out. All right, now let's pull those wires down. Pull that one bundle down, get this in the back. Okay, we can take all the tapes off. Try to keep those bundles together as much as possible. Oh, that one stuck too good. Okay, now the front wire on each bundle, we're going to pull forward about 45 degrees. And then the two wires on each side, we're going to pull those out to the side. Not quite 90 degrees. So you got the front wires, two wires pulled out. The two wires on each side are pulled back. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our smaller mandrel, and we're going to put that right behind these two wires, and we're going to fold them over the top. And down the back of the pendant. And this is going to form our bell, which we'll use to attach to a necklace. Now you can leave the bell in, but I'm going to take it out for right now. And now we're going to take this half round wire and we're going to start wrapping from the bell over the other wraps back towards the pendant. Right over the top of the other wraps. Just keep it nice and tight. Keep your wraps together. So we had 4 wraps to begin with. And so hopefully we'll have about 4, maybe an extra wrap on the one side. And we're going to finish here in the back, and we're going to fold it over. You can take your chain nose pliers, just tighten things up a little bit. Take the cutters, and here on the back side we'll just trim that wire, and then use the chain nose pliers just to fold that in against it so we don't have a sharp edge. Now we have these 2 wires in the back, and we have a couple of options here. So you can see here where I took those 2 and I just trimmed them down a little bit, and I put a couple of curly cues in there. The other option is, we can just cut them off. And I think that's what I'm going to do here today on this one. So just grab your cutters and just trim those 2 off at the base of your wraps. If they poke out a little bit, you can trim them a little bit more. Okay, here's the chance to check and make sure you've got everything here on the sides are in place. The stone is secure. It's not going anywhere. And we're going to start over here with the front wire on the right hand side. And I'm going to take this and I'm holding it clear out here at the end. And I'm going to pull this around. Just kind of naturally, organically, it's going to form a loop over here on the side. When I get it where I want, I'm going to hold my thumb on it and I'm going to wrap it around to the back so that it holds it in place. Now I'm going to be hooking it over this little wire on the side, and so I'm going to put my fingernail under there and I'm going to pull it up just a little bit. Then I'm going to take my flush cutters And I'm going to cut this wire off. I'm going to give myself about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more than 1/8 of an inch. And then bring the chain nose pliers in. And I'm holding that wire on the front in place with a finger. And I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to make a little loop. I'm going to catch that loop right on that wire there so that it will hold it in place. And there's nothing poking out that'll catch anything. I'm going to take the second wire, again, just holding it here on the end, and I'm just going to curve it around. Around the front. If I need to, I can push it a little bit with a finger, but I'm going to pull it around the front until I get the curve that I want, and then fold the wire around to the back. I'm not putting it tight here against the back yet, but what I am going to do is I'm going to take my cutters, I'm going to trim it, again, about 1/8 of an inch from where I want to hook it onto that wire. I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to make a little hook here. And it just snaps into place under that wire. Okay, we're halfway done. Now over to the other side. Now we're going to again take the front wire. Now you have a couple of options here. You could pull it around to the front of the pendant and have it crisscross, but in this particular case I'm going to take it around to the back. And pull it around again. I'm going to try to match the curve on the other side as much as I can. It's not real important. Most people won't even notice. In fact, because it's in the back, it probably shouldn't match. But I get it about where I want it, hold it in place, and this time I'm going to be hooking it over onto the base of the cage on this side, which I've taken my fingernail, pulled out a little bit. And again, holding it in place, so we have a reference. I'm going to cut that about, again, about 1/8 of an inch. Then taking my chain nose pliers, the very tip of the chain nose pliers, I'm going to wrap that around to make a little hook. I'm going to push that hook. Yeah, need a little more space in there. There we go. Just hook that in there. There we go. Just needed to pop it in. This wire here was a little bit in the way. Now we take the second wire, we do the same thing. Pull it around, try to match what's going on over on the other side. Hold it where you want it. Trim about so that you got about 1/8 of an inch to make the hook. I'm going to lift that up just a tiny bit. Grab the end. And we're going to make another hook. We'll just hook that right into that wire and push it into place. So just kind of fill around, feel for sharp edges. Don't fill any. There we are in the front. Last thing you do is you take these 2 wires at the top and just grab with your fingernails and just kind of turn them into bunny ears. Which you can run a cord through there, you can run a chain through there. And there we have our finished pendant. Now, if you enjoyed this project, we would appreciate it if you would go down and you would click the like for this video. And if you'd like to be reminded of any future tutorials or unboxings that we do, be sure and check the subscription. And when you click the subscription, make sure that you click on the bell as well, and then you'll be instantly notified when we come out with another project, another box opening, or even possibly a live session in the future. Anyway, we encourage you to give this project a try and let us know down in the comments below what you think. We look forward to seeing you again in the future, and thanks for coming today.